Welcome, guys. You already know what it is. You already know what's popping. It's your girl, Amara la Negra, and you're listening to Exactly Amara, a production of iHeart. Thank you so much for tuning in. Como siempre, de corazón, muchísimas gracias. Disculpen mi ronquera. Forgive my voice. I haven't had no chance to rest, so I be sounding a little crazy. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Rate us those 5 stars and leave us a review because I love to know what you guys think about the show. So please leave me a good review, okay? Head over to the YouTube channel where you can watch or listen to the podcast, okay? You can watch or listen to old episodes. All you have to do is go to the search bar, write My Cultura Podcast, and click on Exactly Amara as soon as it shows up. Y ahí pueden disfrutar de todos los episodios pasados, etc. Today, I want to talk about something that's been touching my heart, my soul, and I'm feeling some type of way about it. Talking about how the world sees, women in comparison to how the world sees men when it comes to the workplace. Now that I am a mother of 2, I am a single mom, means I obviously don't have anybody else to help me in the process of this. There's so many challenges that come with making time, finding balance with your body, with yourself, with your health, with your fitness, with your mental, with your dating life, with your friends, with your family. It is so much to balance and just take care of that. I'm just like, how are you supposed to do it? Because I feel like society can be so judgmental to women. People are judgmental when it comes to being a single mom. Oh, why couldn't you keep a man? Why didn't you get married first? Why didn't you da-da-da-da? First of all, I want to clarify that because I've heard a lot of that before. Just because you're married doesn't mean that you're in a happy relationship, okay? In many occasions, there's a lot of married women and men that are just there for society, to look good for society, for their family standards, or for whatever X or Y reason, por la costumbre. I'm accustomed to this person. I might as well stay here because I don't want to start all over again. I've already invested too many years. I don't want to go back into the dating scene. In many occasions, there's a lot of insecurities. But just because you're married, it doesn't mean that it's a happy household. I know a lot of married women that are still single parents. Take that back. I know a lot of married women who are still single parents. So don't let the whole marriage thing confuse you. In many occasions, why couldn't you keep it together? Why didn't you make it work? You know what? Sometimes things just don't work out. There's no guidebook, like I always say, on how to live your life. And just because you know someone now doesn't mean that you know this person 10 years from now, even if you're living together, because people change, they evolve, they grow. Today we're diving into the topic that affects countless women across the world, the challenges faced by single women in the workforce, while also exploring the double standards that exist when it comes to working parents, specifically focusing on why working moms often face backlash compared to those that are, males. I know there's a lot of single fathers out there that work really hard too. Shout outs to all of you men out there, putting in the work, doing what you got to do, taking care of your family, taking care of your kids. My most highest respect to you. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not sure how to put it, but there's less of y'all than there is of us, because you got to give credit when credit is due. There's a lot of amazing fathers, men out there that have taken the responsibility of protecting and taking care of their children and their household, while the mothers are out and about living their best lives, or maybe for whatever other situations. Pero unfortunately, there's more single mothers in this world than there is men. And I think it's very unfair that men just get to pick up, their luggages or things, walk away, while the mother has all the responsibility of keeping these children alive, giving them well education, making sure that they're well protected and taken care of, while still working, while still not losing their feminine side, taking care of them as women. There's a lot to it, So let's dive into the life of a single woman navigating it, into her career. Now, I see myself having to think about, where are my kids going to be while I'm working? Is my mom okay? Because my mom has a lot of health issues, and I'd be worried about leaving them with my mom all the time, because I've had to call 911 in like 6 occasions in 1 week at one point because of her health. She hasn't been doing good. Just handling of like, who's going to take care of them, even having to take care of paying a babysitter before you go out to work, not even to party, but to work. The responsibility, the extra financial responsibility, it's a lot. I recently went to preschool It's like a not a daycare center, but an academy, rather better, that starts to educate the babies before they actually get into preschool and all those things. Because there's a lot of children that are super advanced. So I was like, all right, cool, boom. Let me try to get my girls into one of these. That's an extra $2,500 I have to pay a month. And financially, thank God I can afford it. It just, puts my mind in the perspective of what about those parents that financially can't, you know? And that's that much because it's two of them. So it's double, diapers and food and this and the attention and the school supplies and everything else. But I'm like, for those parents that realistically can barely afford their ends meet, how do they do it? It's a lot. I don't know how they put it together. In many occasions, I take my babies with me wherever I go. I have an interview, I take them with me. I have this, I take them with me. Now that I'm doing the Dancing with the Stars competition, I have hours of rehearsals from like 7:45 till like 6:30. And by the time I come home, I'm super exhausted. And unlike everybody else that they get to go home and just rest, I am in mommy duties. I am in changing diapers, burping, giving milk, this, that, still being an active parent in my kid's life. Because it's like, yeah, you're working so hard to make sure that your kids are good, but are you dedicating them the time that they need? Because kids don't know the difference. Like, they don't really necessarily care about all the crap that you give them. They're more concerned about the time that you spend with them, playing with them, bonding with them, creating that bond as a parent, all that other stuff. So as women, after you're working and you're doing all those things, you still have to go be a mother. I still have to wake up at night when they're crying and do all those things because, they're teething. And it's all these things that I feel that society overall puts so much pressure onto women, onto single women, single mothers, that I don't feel that men do. Why are men not getting all this extra backlash for being absent fathers, right? We used to say in many occasions back in the days, and still to this day, and I understand for the African American community for the most part, it was, it was set up like this by the government, by society, to take the Black man out of the household, so that in this way, women would, request government assistance. And I've heard it all. I kind of have some background information on it. I get it. But what is the excuse today? Because today now we know what happened. We know what the issue was. We know what can be done. We know how to fix it. So what really is the problem? Why are there so many men leaving women alone to take care of all the responsibility of taking care of a child while they decide to go, live their life and date other people, have more children with more women, probably, repeat the copy paste? I know that in many occasions, the lack of having a father figure in the household for men does affect the way that they treat their children. It affects the way that they raise their children, that they perceive what a household and a family and a wife should be, because they've never seen it, they've never experienced it. But just because you haven't had it doesn't mean that you can't try to do right, because you have seen it, not in your family, but you've seen it in others, right? I've never been around billionaires. I didn't come from a rich, household, but I know I want to be rich, but I know I want to follow that. Whatever it is, I haven't had it, but I know that I want it. So I work towards it, right? So to me, there's no excuse for a man to be a bad father and leave all the responsibility to a mother. Let's talk about the backlash at the workspace. In many occasions, we've even seen women that are working at fast food places that have to take their babies into work. There's cooking fryers and steamers and all types of things. But as a mother, when you have nowhere to leave your child, financially, you may not be able to afford daycare or any childcare at all, right? You may not have any family members. You may be solo in another state, in another country, or you may not just overall trust anyone. Whatever the case may be, you find yourself being a good mother, and being a good mother means that you protect your child and you take them with you, because you just can't leave them at home. These days, the way that your neighbors are set up and life is set up, back in the days, they would leave the kids with like fulanita across the street, la vecina, hold my kid down till I come back from work. Them days is gone. You can't trust anybody with your kids. You can't trust your neighbor. Oh, hold my kid down for a couple of hours till I get back from work. You can't do that either. So what happens? All the backlash of these mothers trying to take care of their children, pay ends meet, and then at the same time maintain and take care of their children. It's hard. I see a lot of people that are judgmental to these working women that they're like, oh, well, then why did you have 4 kids if you know you can't afford it? Who knows? We could be very judgmental without really knowing somebody's story. What about if she was in a solid relationship with someone that was holding her down? Things didn't work out and eventually he stepped away. So now she's stuck with the responsibility. I think that we should be more loving, more caring, more affectionate, more nurturing to these women that are holding all this weight on their own, because being a parent is a 24-hour job. You can't just turn it off, right? And I don't feel like we give each other enough respect for what each parent is doing. The same way I find crazy when a parent is the one being an active parent in a child's life, and here comes the other parent and decides to be disrespectful or have any personal feelings. So there's nothing you can say if you have left the building and this person has been taking care of your responsibilities as well, whether it's a man or whether it's a woman. There is nothing the opposite parent can say or do, because no matter what, this person stayed while you decided to leave. Girls, let's talk about it. I've seen so many occasions, and I know this must piss you off. I'm going to keep my own personal situation to myself, but if you know, you know. There's no worse feeling than to seeing the father of your children not being an active parent to your child, but being an active parent to his girlfriends or his wife or his dating side chick or whoever it is. The point is, just being an active parent to somebody else's kid. There's no worse feeling than to seeing a father or a parent that's not active with their own children, but is active with somebody else's kids. Whether it is that you are spending time with them, taking them to the park, financially being responsible, taking them to school, whatever. While you, on the other hand, have their child that came from them, that should be their responsibility, and they take no action whatsoever. That must be the worst feeling. And by the way, if you've been there, done that, and you know what I'm talking about, hit me up with that review. Let me know what you've been through. Talk to me. Come on, speak up. I know I'm not the only one. I know you guys have been through it too. Also understanding that as a parent, you have to prioritize the well-being of your children, but at the same time, in many occasions, you've worked your whole life for your career. You can lose your career because of mismanagement of, the time that you spend or the way that you take care of your child. Someone once told me, who's going to want you now? Who's going to want you now with 2 kids? It's crazy to me because I know a lot of men who have fallen in love with these women that have 4, 6 kids, and they're like, I'm in it. I'm in here. I like this woman. I love her. I'm down for it. And I'm down to come, take whatever comes with her. But there's a lot of people with that mentality of like, once you have children, your price point goes down. Your value in society goes down. You're not as worthy anymore. You're not as fresh. You're not as hip anymore. So now you have to, even when it comes to dating, you have to look at a different perspective of people. The same thing with your career. You need to find a different perspective of people that can understand that if for any X or Y reason, you have to leave work right now immediately. Something happened with your child. You need to stop whatever you're doing by all means necessary, and you have to go handle that. I also want to talk about those single fathers out there that are putting in that work. That's a terrible feeling, I'm sure, for men as well, because we barely even, we talk about those men who have decided to take the full responsibility, take custody of their children for whatever X or Y reason it may be. And they are responsible for those kids, and they make sure they go to the football games, and they make sure she goes to ballet, and he works and he does this. And that for men, it's not their nature per se to be nurturers. That is women's natural intuition. And when it takes a man to do it, that is also something grand. And I'm sure that men have to feel crazy as well when you are out here changing your whole life, sleepless nights, putting in that extra work, that extra shift, while the mother now that no longer has that responsibility is taking vacations, is traveling, is having a good time, is living her best life. Because now she doesn't have to worry about keeping anybody alive, And let's just not talk about what it is to take care of a kid as far as like, oh, you food and this and that. But there's doctor's appointments, when they feel sick, when they are scared, when they need comforting, those beginning stages where they need their parents to be a good role model, all these things. How do you balance it out? I only have 2. And I wonder, back in the days, my grandmother on my father's side had 14 children. Can someone explain to me what type of drugs she was on? What was she doing? What was she eating? Like, how did she do it? How did our ancestors do it? They used to have like 20 kids and they were still alive and sane. I have no idea because I have like the lack of sleep is really starting to get to me. And I don't understand how they did it, but I respect it. I respect it so, so much. And then here's something I also see different. Back in those days, no matter if the women had, 20 kids, the father was still in the household. Whether he was consistently working but came home, that image of a father figure, it is so important in a household, not only for the wife, but for the role model for the kids as well. Every little girl needs a father. Every little girl needs to feel protected, to feel safe. Every little girl wants to go to the playground and if you do something to her, say, I'm going to tell my daddy. Wait till my dad comes, that feeling of protection of, someone has your back. Yes, your mother does, but because our nature is to be nourishing, every gender has its role, right? We naturally are born with different instincts, and that's what keeps the world balanced. That's just what that is. But every little boy also needs a father at home. Every little boy needs to have that role model that they can look up to learn how to stand, behaviors, how I'm supposed to sit. How is my father treating my mother? How is he treating my grandmother and my sister? Whatever you do, they will mimic. They will copy paste that. Even when you think that they're not looking, they are paying attention. They are a reflection of you, your behavior, the way that you're raising them, what you're eating, if you're working out, if you eat badly, if you have an attitude, if you're disrespectful, if you are a bully as an adult, your children will mimic what you are doing, and they will be a representation of you. So therefore, I feel that in many occasions, we don't really bother to pay attention to how important it is to have both role models in the household. It is extremely important. And even if for any X or Y reason, you guys as a couple do not work out, because it happens in many occasions, we have to learn how to be adults, civilized adults, get to that space. Because, I know there's beef, there's anger. Okay. Eventually, you have to become adult enough, mature enough, grown enough to say, okay, we're not getting along. We don't understand each other. The vibe is not right anymore. But guess what? We're stuck together forever. And now we're stuck together forever as a family. Like, you may not like me, I may not like you, whatever, but we have to do this for the well-being and the sake of these children. So that part is very important, because that will also help you understand the other parent's perspective as far as, Concho, this guy has to go to work. Let me hold the weight this week. Vice versa. My ex-wife or the mother of my kids has to work. Let me hold the weight this week. Because if you're both active parents, you understand the responsibility, the weight, the stress, the everything that it takes to raise these children. I also feel that for those that are the boss, if you are the boss, if you're the one that has the employees, if you are the whatever it may be at your workspace, and you know that there is a parent, having a difficult moment with their children, as far as they have to leave to go to the daycare center to pick up the kids, or their kids may be sick or whatever. I really feel that it's important for us as a community, as a village, to be more understanding of each other's situation. Whether you have kids or you may not have kids, sometimes I feel like some bosses can be real tough on some parents that are just out there working to be able to feed their family. Put yourself in their shoes once in a while. I understand that you have to keep your level of ethic and professionalism no matter what the workspace may be, but also try to be more understanding, because God knows what this person may be going through once they leave this workspace and has to go back home to take care of their children. In many occasions, I know a lot of people that dress really nice to go to work, and when they go home, they might be living in a tiny studio with like 5, 6 kids, I've even seen people who go to work looking very nice, and you would never know that they're sleeping in front of the Walmart inside their car. You never really know what another person is going through. So in the workspace, try to be more understanding, try to be more forgiving, try to be more flexible. Because one day you might be doing something good for somebody else, and you pray and hope that one day somebody will take care of you and have your back, no matter what the situation is. I think that the backlash from your workspace sometimes is so unnecessary. Instead of us trying to support each other as a community, especially if you have a good employee, they're a good employee. It's just that you can tell that they're going through some situation at home. Try to be a helping hand. And this goes, I feel like sometimes it's important to put the message out because you never know who you may be, touching. Try to be a helping hand because it's already a tough world out here. It's already so tough, out here for women, for men as well. It's tough for everyone. And it makes it even worse when you go to work somewhere that you have to go every day. You're realistically just there to be able to provide for your family. Because every person that's working, and I want you to take consideration of that as well. Every woman you see, every elderly person you see still at the workspace, sometimes you go to the Walmart, to the Target, to the Ross, whatever, and you see this elderly person, whether they're working security or whether they're working in the back, whatever it is. Every single person, I've seen pregnant women about to give birth, still working. Every single person you see at the workspace is working to be able to provide for their family, for themselves, for their family, for survival. It's so terrible to go to the workspace and have backlash and have bad energy and have people look down upon you or have people judge you for whatever reasons it may be. Let's be more nurturing, more understanding when it comes to those things. And like I said before, I know there's a really big double standard when it comes to men and when it comes to women at the workspace. Listen, if you've been through it, if you know where I'm coming from, if you feel my pain, if you feel what I'm saying, hit me with that review. Tell me, talk to me. What have you been through? Has anybody ever made you feel that you're worthless or, you're not worthy because you're not doing the best job that you could be at your workspace because you have to take care of your kids, because you're trying to manage? What about your family? Has your family been judgmental towards you because, you've had to be like, yo, listen, can you take care of the babies or the baby, for a couple of hours till I get out of work? Have they been helpful? Have they judged you? Have they made you pay? Your own family? Is it okay if your own family that's supposed to have your back ask you, oh, well, then pay me and I'll take care of your kid? How do you feel about that? At your job, are you allowed to bring your kids? Do they have a space for children? I think that's an amazing thing. I don't think every job, every workspace has that capacity, but if it could and it did, I think it would be so important and so great. Imagine going to work and knowing that on the first floor or right there, there's a nursery, there's a daycare, there's a space where your child is taken care of and protected. In your lunch break, you can go see them, take care of them, and still continue focusing on your career, your goals and expectations. Because just because you're a parent, it doesn't mean that you have to let go of your dreams of becoming whatever it is. It doesn't mean you have to let go of everything you've worked for your whole life, your whole career to accomplish. It just means that you need to modify. Now it's time to modify the plan. Now we got a new addition to the original goal. How do we go about it? How do we move around it? That I really feel is important. Like I said before, if you a boss, as a real boss, bosses are leaders. Bosses lead, right? And part of that is being understanding and understanding your employees, the people that work for you, the people that help move this ship. Because yes, you may be the boss and they just may be your employees, but without them, you ain't got no business, right? So part of that is you may have an amazing ass secretary, whatever it is, human resource, nurse, whatever it may be. If this person is having a difficult moment because they may not know how to administrate everything, try to become a helping hand. I think that's important too, because we talk about what it is to have backlash for being a single mother, trying to balance everything out. But at the same time, in the workspace that you're at, if the people that surround you aren't trying to be understanding, aren't trying to be helpful, aren't trying to, then that might be a cue for you to have to figure out another place of work. Because now once you have kids, your priority becomes your kids. Like no matter what, there is no job that, goes before your kids. There's no job that can be a priority before your kids. You have to modify your lifestyle after that. So listen to this. Here's something that you can take home with you, right? We've tackled the hardship, faced by single women in the workspace, in the workforce. jumped into the complexity of working mothers, the backlash of society, family, the dating scene and everything else, and questioned the double standards surrounding the work, the working dads, because there are also amazing working dads out there that I want to give you guys props as well. I know that usually when we talk about like Mother's Days and things like that, mothers have more, I don't know, we get more celebrated than men, but there's not a lot, but there are a lot of amazing fathers out there that deserve all the credit and all the praise as well. So shout outs to you. Change begins when awareness and open conversations start. It is important for us to talk about it so that we can become aware of the issue and figure out how can we resolve it and move forward from here. If we don't know what the problem is, then how are you supposed to fix it? If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others that might, find this topic interesting, that might be going through it, that might understand where I'm coming from. And once again, as usual, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I want to connect with y'all. I want to be able to share my experiences. I want to be able to vent because this makes me feel so good to be able to share my experiences with you. You guys are like my journal, my diary. I'm open, I'm transparent, I'm organically myself with you, and I love that. And I want to be able to thank you once again. This is our second amazing season, and I just want to thank you once again for being part of Exactly Amara. Thank you so, so much. Make sure to find me on YouTube. Catch my show by searching for My Cultura podcast on YouTube, clicking on Exactly Amara. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Amara La Negra, ALN, Amara La Negra, ALN. For sure, go check me out, okay? Check out all the past episodes. Super late. You might actually learn something. Remember that this has been a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite show. Guys, this is your girl, Amara La Negra, and you just heard Exactly Amara.